Greg Lutzka, pro skateboarder, entrepreneur, real estate investor. I mean, you do a lot. You definitely came from that sector of kind of business and entrepreneurial skater, right? Yeah. We were talking about this earlier. It felt like you and Deerdick were kind of some of the first two that were having their hands in things outside of skateboarding at a time where a lot of people didn't do that.
Correct.
Right? So what I want to start with, you came from, what's your home state?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
Wisconsin, yeah, that's right.
Came from Milwaukee.
Correct.
Bailed out in high school, no high school diploma.
No high school diploma.
Right? Came out to California, no plan other than I want to be a pro skateboarder.
No plan B.
Got sponsored, kind of blew up.
Yeah.
And then, started taking on sponsors that weren't accepted at that time, right?
Correct.
K-Swiss. Were you on Monster in the beginning?
I did 12 years at Monster and then 6 years at Monster, 6 years at Rockstar Energy, so 12 years in the energy business.
Okay, so pushing the boundaries, you could say, with taking sponsors that weren't totally accepted at that time.
Correct.
What was going on through your mind there? Like,
yeah.
Were you just like, dude, give me the money? Or was it like,
Nah.
I'm here for a moment of time, I'm going to take opportunity? What were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, when I first moved to California, like, long story short, like, basically it was two of my good friends. I was coming out here visiting with Al Partnan and skating for Millennium, and I got transferred over because I rode that boat till it fell in the sea, basically. And Rodney Mullen called me and said, I got this new company we're starting. We don't have a name for it yet, but it was almost. And he's like, we want you to film for this new video with myself and Daewon Song. And I was like, holy shit. Like, because I remember watching the Rodney versus Daewon round 1, round 2. And I don't even know if he had a name called round 3, but that's what it ended up being. So basically when I went back home, I told my parents, I was like, look, I'm going to drop out of high school, move to California. And me and John Bunch and Pat Acuff, we were basically back home in the basement shooting pool one night, and I told them that I'm going to move to California, and they wanted to roll with me. They were 2 years older than me. They had a little bit of change, like, saved up, and they wanted to move to California as well. So we all moved basically to Huntington Beach off Warner, where Andrew Reynolds and all those guys live, like the Warner mob. We lived basically in a 1-bedroom apartment. It was like literally 3 mattresses, like my futon mattress, John Bunch, and then Pat. And if there was a chick, you just pull out your mattress into the other room. We lived like that for, John ended up moving back to the Midwest. He was dating this chick back home. She'd come out and visit, Sarah. He ended up moving back, so that soldier was gone after like 6 months. Pat ended up moving back, I think, after like 2 years or whatnot. But he ended up dating, actually, Chet Thomas's wife at the time, her sister. So when our lease was up, basically, he moved out with her. And instead of me, like, basically, I was starting to sign with some bigger companies. I was with Volcom. I was with Globe Shoes. I was with Almost at the time. This is before I kind of started going with the corporate companies. I bought my first condo when I think I was 18 or 19 in Huntington Beach, which I'm selling now, and I'm 10Xing that thing into apartment complex, but in the Midwest. But at that time, I was getting opportunity to film that part. And when that part came out, like, overnight, instantly everyone knew who I was. Yeah. Basically, is kind of what happened. So from there, like, I started getting invited to the Do Tour, just started coming around, the X Games, all that kind of stuff. And I started winning those events because, back home, I grew up in a skate park where, like, I learned how to skate transition, and, 6 months out of the year, it was cold. So when I went to when I moved to California, I didn't skate any skate parks or didn't care to. Like, I was strictly filming skating street. But when I went to these contests, I felt like I was just at home skating my home park. You know what I mean? Like, it was very easy for me to do a lot of those tricks because I just grew up in a park back home, basically. I met my manager, Todd Hahn, at the time, that was with Wasserman Media Group, WMG, and he started bringing in opportunities for me. So I signed with companies like Toyota. Man, he was just like, he's like, check it out, dude. Like, I have some connections for some big corporate companies. He was representing Twitch in motocross, Louis Vito in snowboarding, Elena Height in snowboarding. And he didn't have a street skateboarder. So he's like, who do you want to ride for? And I was like, man, I'll take opportunity. Let's go after it, So from there, like, he gave me the opportunity, and he's like, all right, cool. I know Dylan Radloff over at Oakley. Let's sign you with Oakley. Done. Let's do it. And I'm talking, like, this happened quick. Like, in a matter of, like, signing with Todd within a month, it was like my whole resume of sponsorship changed, like, quick. And I started making this amount to, like, this amount. Like, it was pretty pretty crazy.
What was the first sponsor where you were like, dang, this is different? Because Oakley,
Yeah.
Sheckler's-
No, well, I'm just trying to say, like, I started thinking outside the box of riding for more brands that he was bringing to the table. So he brought me Oakley, he brought me Jose Cuervo, he brought me Toyota, he brought me Visa. We ended up doing a K-Swiss deal together. But actually, that deal, a lot of people think Todd brought me, but that deal actually came from Tall Cooperman. So I was coming up to LA, hanging out up here. I was friends with like Dingo, and Dingo was really good friends with Tall. Tall was good friends with Benji and Joel Madden. So I started kicking in with those guys a lot up here in LA. They had a clothing company called DCMA. They did a collab with K-Swiss, right? So I met David Nichols from K-Swiss. At this time, Nike was starting to get into skateboarding, and that's one of their competitors, kind of. So they felt, we should jump into the skate market. And me and David just kind of hit it off. Todd went in and negotiated that deal for me. And I think at that time, like, I was so focused on skating, if I would have negotiated that deal. And by the way, like, nowadays I've been negotiating my own deals the last, I want to say, over 10 years. And I do a great job doing it. And I'm very experienced at doing this, because I learned a lot through Todd Hahn.
Okay, so because I do want to spend some time on K-Swiss. Before that, let's say like Toyota or Jose Cuervo, whatever the first like
the big
real out of the box sponsor
was.
Were you worried at all? Like, was there anything where you were like, shit, I'm going to get blowback? How is this going to impact my brand? Or were you just like, no, this is a great deal, I'm taking it?
No, my whole career, I never worried about what anyone else thought. You know what I mean? Like, I was so on my own track of like what I was going to do. And I'm still that way to this day. And I think even as a kid, like when I was in, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade, like I cut my hair, half of it was like shaved, and I dyed it blue and had like the old school, like Tony Hawk, like haircut with dyed blue hair. Cause I looked up to like, I don't know, listening to Green Day and freaking Nirvana and those kind of bands that were dyeing their hair at the time.
So do you think you were born with the innate, I call it a talent, to not care about other people's opinions? Do you think it's something that you grew into?
No, I never gave a shit.
There
Like,
ever a
I think
point-
I was kind of born that way because it was like that since I was like a young kid.
Right.
So I think when it came down to the skate industry, and what I've learned in the skate industry was, it is like high school. A lot of people just, like say what they want to say and say shit. I just kind of kept following the lane that I was going. And I think I was riding for, at the time was Almost. And like, if you look at Rodney and you look at Day One and you look at Haslam and you look at these guys, they don't really ride for anything outside the box of the core market of skating. And when I was going this other direction, I think that's like kind of when I transferred over and started working with, or left Almost. And Sheckler left at that time too. Sheckler was kind of going the same direction I was going.
Sheckler started getting some corporate
Oh yeah, for sure. And Paul was too a little bit. Paul was like with, I think it was Mountain Dew at the time.
Paul was in that group.
But what gave you the specific conviction to be able to continue down the path where you felt like something was right and you wanted to go down that path, and regardless of the noise that was coming your way, you tuned it out? Because this is my opinion here, right? Like, I feel like in today's society, so many people are just listening to other people's opinions, and that's guiding their decision-making process, that they're not setting up boundaries. They're not creating a framework that this is the fairway that I'm going to go down, and people may fall out that I work with. I may have friends that may drop out. And because they don't want to lose out on those things, or because they feel like they have to accommodate others, they're changing actually who they are. Yeah. So you're not finding that many people nowadays that are
I think back then people were worried too, because I remember Haslam kind of like, he was on like, he had opportunity, I think, to ride for some of these companies and just wasn't taking it. Paul McEnroe's another one that like, Paul and Galea rode for Globe, and Globe's like, don't ride the Dude Tour. This shit's kind of gay. And
didn't P-Rod get a lot of shit for Nike?
In the beginning, yeah. And then look where Nike's now. Now it's like you don't even see these other brands that were once cool when we were kind of coming up. Right. Like, you don't really see America or S or DBS or like those kind of brands. It's like the kids are all wearing Nikes. But at one time, and Nike tried that earlier with Xavier, I think it was, and it failed, right? And
that's right.
And even with like looking back now, I think, and I don't want to say this like toot my own horn or anything, and I didn't know this was going to happen, but even though I was getting shit for riding for, let's say, like the Monster Energy drinks or the Rockstar Energy, right? Nowadays, you're looking at it like, all right, well, if you don't have a drink sponsor in your head, are you even a pro skater? Like, it's actually, these dudes are fighting to go ride for those brands, where back then, and those brands aren't paying what they were to myself and Sheckler and those guys, I don't think. What, you know what I mean?
Not even close.
Not even close. So we were just, I think myself and Chex and even Paul were just taking opportunity I was given. And, you know, kind of, I'm sure Paul thinks the same way. He wasn't really worried about what the noise was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And maybe also a question for you is, where do you guys toe the line between playing the game and doing what you know is right and tuning out the noise?
Yeah, it's interesting.
I think, let me take this, because I think there was no point in my whole career that I ever did something that I didn't feel was right, or as I wouldn't have done it.
Right.
I was taking opportunity, and I was like, all right, well, look, like, I'm going to sign with K-Swiss, and this is going to be a multi-million dollar deal. And it was because Todd helped negotiate that deal, and he's like, whatever Globe's paying you, dude, we don't talk about this. We're going to go in there like, they're like, dude, they're paying like Anakova like $10 million a year, like the volleyball player, whatever, Anakova.
I don't know.
I don't know. They had some crazy athletes. Tennis. It was a tennis player. And I was like, and I don't really follow tennis, but I was like, you go and negotiate the deal. I'll, you know, do what I do, you know, go whatever, skate the contest and skate and do what I love, you know? So I got a good deal out of it. But in hindsight, I was like, I want to build like a legit program. Like, I wanted to bring on other pros. I wanted to build legit skate shoes. So it wasn't like I was just throwing my name on some shoes that they originally wanted to give me, which looking back, I probably should have done that, because the shoes would have came out quicker and I probably would have made way huger royalties. But like in my vision of like signing with this brand, I was like, Nike's doing it. Let's make this super successful. And we were going to bring on like other skaters at the time, Chaz Ortiz. And like, we had a game plan. I was talking to Fonzo Rawls about designing shoes. Like, I legitimately wanted to bring in a good team. You know what I mean? So like, I didn't feel as if I was doing something that was, I mean, I knew it was a little bit outside the box of like the core market of skateboarding, but in my eyes, like, I was like, I bet you I can make this thing successful.
Right.
And it was starting to turn, and, you know, we brought in some great people, but the company got bought out in year 4. So when the company got bought out, the new owners bought me out, because I had a 5-year deal with a 5-year extension. So it's essentially, I had a 10-year.
This is with Globe?
No, this is with K-Swiss. So essentially, I had a 10-year contract, because Todd's like, if he's going to leave Globe, he needs a long-term deal here. Okay. So we did a 5-year with a 5-year extension.
Okay.
But I got bought out in year 4.
Okay, so there's so much here. It's got to be interesting.
So whatever people think isn't actually like, because I hear stories, I'm like, that's actually not what happened. But
okay,
you know what I mean?
So what's interesting here for you, because you really only know the skaters who are invested with us. Outside of that, you don't really know any. And the skaters that invest with us typically are the more business savvy skaters, right?
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know he was a skater when I met him.
Oh wow!
So what's funny though is this building used to be the K-Swiss building.
You know what? When I pulled up here, I kind of knew that, because
this was K-Swiss and it was Supra and Crew.
Isn't that crazy? So that's another story. So this company that I signed with, that everyone was like kind of barking about in the industry, is the same company that went and bought out the Chorus shoe brand, Supra, and Crew. And like a lot of those skaters, like those were like kind of the core skaters. They're probably like thinking like, what the fuck, man?
Okay.
Like,
So,
and who won on that deal was Angel.
Yeah.
But did Lizard King and some of these other dudes get taken care of? Probably not, dude.
Right.
And that's very unfortunate. You know, and when I rode for Globe, they were trying to dictate what I was going to do. They're like, we don't want you riding for Monster Energy drink. They're trying to, you know, that's when Appleyard kind of came in, and Mark Appleyard, and they brought in like Ian Deacon and Jeremy Fox, and they were restructuring Globe. And they actually went and they cut my pay in half. And that's where we went, because they didn't think I could get another shoe deal. And then that's at that same timing when I was hanging out with Tall and Benji and Joel and those guys up in L.A. that I met David Nichols, which is the owner's son. Steven Nichols is the owner, but the owner's son, David. And we kind of just like, you know, broed down and was like, dude, let's create this. So I wasn't ever listening even to the brands that were paying me back then.
I'm tracking.
Of the moves that they wanted me to do. And guys like Paul McEnroe and Glia were.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden everything's under one roof, right? Paul McEnroe's with Globe, Glia's with Globe. They're also with Darkstar. They get cut from both brands.
Yeah, no, I know. That's actually that was common.
Unbelievable.
I think that's common for a lot of skaters.
Yeah.
Where you have sponsorships, and those sponsorships are trying to protect their brand.
Correct.
So they're trying to influence like on what you do, right?
Yes.
And you saw the example. I mean, even you saw this with Tosh, right?
Yeah.
It's like he got
put all of his eggs in one basket.
Yeah, and then one cut and your career's over, right?
Yeah. And you know what's funny about that story too is like I was signing with whatever Monster. I think I was with Monster at the time, and then all of a sudden about 6 months later, I see a flip ad. It says powered by Field the Feast Tour, powered
Yeah,
by
I
Monster
know.
Energy Drink.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these are the dudes that wanted me to leave the brand that was paying me,
Yeah.
a really good amount at that time. And it's just kind of funny how the skate industry works. So going back to what you were saying earlier, like it's very important to, to build the brand that you feel deep inside that you want to build and not worry about what other people think you should be building. Does that make sense? 100%. And now I think about my life of how do I look at the end goal and I build backwards now because I'm in real estate and I invest and like, what amount do I need to get to a passive income where I'm going to be able to be like financially, like, because everyone has different amounts of what they spend or how the lifestyle they want to live. So I think backwards now. And that's why I got really deep into buying real estate. Well, my neighbor got me into it, but then I started realizing like, oh my gosh, I'm making all this passive income from all these properties and most of my properties are completely paid off. This is working. And now I look at it like, okay, kind of like how I was doing with skateboarding. I was 10Xing my career of like making money riding for corporate companies. That's how I think about my investing and my strategy on that. But going back to like skating, I mean, yeah, there was people saying shit, but I think now, I did the 9 Club episode and even like Chris Ortiz came up to me. He's like, dude, that episode, like you kind of said it, you set motherfuckers straight and like who got the last laugh now? You know what I mean? Because it's like they were talking shit now, but the same people that are talking shit back then are probably not at the point of life or took their career where they could have, or they didn't take the opportunity back then to ride for those brands. And they're like, well, now all these skaters do ride for corporate companies. Now these dudes do have drink deals. Now these dudes do have corporate shoe deals. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's right. So for K-Swiss, right? Like, you had some of the corporate sponsors, Monster, but when K-Swiss broke, that he was going
we made noise in the industry.
I was a pro at this point, right?
Yeah.
I went, no way. Like,
Yeah.
I was like mind blown. Like there's no chance. And then the dollar amount got floated around. And what we heard was he signed $1 million a year for 10 years.
It was a big deal.
Right?
It was, and they gave me a good buyout for sure. Like,
so here's my first one.
Yeah.
You did the deal. You were arguably became one of the highest paid pros at that time.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it was.
And by the way that we negotiated the deals with some of these companies, including K-Swiss and Rockstar, when I would win contests. So like at the Money Maloof Cup, I won 160 grand. They would match it. So that day I won 500 grand from my matchings from these companies. Yeah. And back then it was like if you look at a brand like K-Swiss, some brands will put a cap, right? So like you can only get to a certain point. So if you win X Games at 50 grand, we're going to cap you out for the year at a 50. There was no cap. So it was like, and at that time I was skating a lot of contests. I mean, I was filming a lot of video parts, but I was also skating a lot of contests and winning Dew Tours, X Games, I was skating everything. The European contests, all that stuff.
So when you were only skating, what was the most amount of money you made in 1 year? Do you remember the number?
Oh, man. When I was making that kind of money, I wouldn't even go pick up the checks, to be honest. And
an idea. Like, what do you think if you even had to take a stab at it? Did you have a year where you cleared $2 million?
Yes. I mean, we were doing good, Obviously, we were doing good. The one thing that I look back that I wish I would have done when I was younger is started investing earlier.
Okay, so
and I was investing back then, but I wish I was investing more.
Right.
And if there's anything that I could look back and reteach myself or teach a new pro coming up or someone that's actually making money in skating or doing anything they love in general, is to invest earlier on in life, and that will take care of you later on in life, because you're not gonna be able to skate forever, right? And if you don't know how to go buy real estate or areas where to buy, because you can lose your ass in this game too, invest with the commune capital like what you guys are doing, and let you guys manage this and get, obviously there's going to be a higher return if you invest yourself and buy your own real estate, but there's a lot more risk with that too, and you're going to have a lot more to manage. And work with like a brand that you guys have built, I think is really cool and powerful, and have different sectors. You got multifamily, then you got storage, so they can choose or they can diversify their portfolio under one roof.
Okay, so yeah, 100%. So you're starting to have some big years. You start investing right from there. I know you wish you would have invested more. We all do.
Yeah.
But you started investing, right?
Yeah, and thank God I met like my neighbor Ben that got me into buying real estate. Because if I wouldn't have bought that house in Mission Viejo, I wouldn't have met Ben. And how I met Ben was like, I'm like, oh, what do you do for a living? He's like, oh, I'm retired, but I play Monopoly. And I was like, well, what does that mean? He's like, oh, I buy real estate. I go, where? He goes, in Arizona. What you bought this place for right here next to you? You can buy a good little portfolio over there in Arizona. Because at the time we were buying these condos for 50, 60 grand. Now they're worth almost 200. They were just little 2-bedroom condos, and I was buying a bunch of them.
So you had your condo in Huntington when you were 19.
I lived there for about a year and a half, and then I started renting it out. And we still have a renter in there. That thing I've been renting out for 20-some years now.
What was the next piece of property you bought? Arizona?
No, Mission Viejo. The house in Mission Viejo. It was the one with the mini ramp and had the big pool.
Yeah.
That was a 10,000 square foot lot, 6-bedroom home. That's where Hoops moved in with me.
Right.
And that's where I met my neighbor, Ben, that got me investing originally into real estate and ultimately changed my life.
Okay, so then from there, then you started going into the Arizona market.
Then I got in the Arizona market. Then I bought another house in Lake Forest, where I'm at now. And that neighbor got me investing into the Midwest, where he was buying. And before that, I was buying, and I bought a Airbnb in basically right across the street from Coachella. And I did that for and that's when we talked originally. I did that for about 2 years, but I flipped that house and I made 200 grand.
Right.
So then in my mind, I was like, all right, I'm going to 1031 this, and I'm going to go buy some other properties. But I didn't realize I have to incorporate the debt. So which actually worked out better for me, because now I own more than 3. I own 4 buildings now in the Midwest. So I got 9 units there now. But at that time, I was like, all right, I'm just going to take this money and buy a duplex cash. But you got to incorporate whatever your loan was. So then I ended up buying 2 more. Then I got more deep into it and kind of seeing like, okay, there's some return out here. And then I just bought a triplex out there. Now I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this condo I have, because I hardly own anything on it, and I'm going to make 650, 700 grand. I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it on a 1031 into a bigger complex, like a 20-some unit complex in Michigan. And then my goal, to be honest, is to get to a point of having like a 55 and up older folk community, because those people in the Midwest, they're as they're getting older, they're selling off their homes, because back home you got to shovel snow, and they're pretty much going to move into a nice complex and they're going to retire there, and that's where they're going to pass. So my goal is to take what I built earlier on in my years of skateboarding, flip this into 1031s, right, into bigger complexes, right, and then have it. And have it to the right demographic. In my eyes, I think renting to a 55 and up older community is a lot better and longer term rent. And they're not, once we get good renters in there, they're not going to trash the place, and they're not going to leave, than trying to buy apartment complexes next to a college, college that we're just going to have kids coming in and out, trashing the place, new renters every 2 years, having to rehab the place.
Right.
Because, it's all about keeping your expenses down with real estate and getting long-term renters in there, making sure they're paying, and older people that are retired are going to pay, and they're not going to, the turnaround rate's not going to be as crazy.
Right.
And my grandma, like I went and visited my grandma back home, and she's like, they raise the rent on me almost every single year. I mean, that's just life, the rent's going to go up, and as inflation goes up, what's going to happen is basically you're going to make more money. And a lot of people kind of bark, oh, we're waiting for the interest rates to go down. I love where they're at right now, because I'm buying right now, and like I'm getting deals out there, because it's not a bloodbath. I'm not in a situation where I'm having a bunch of people bidding against me, and now all of a sudden this property was, let's say, like this triplex I got for 240 grand. I guarantee when interest rates go up, there's going to be more bidders, and the property value is going to go up, right? And at this time, then I just refinance. I do a cash out refinance, because I got equity in the home. I get majority of my investment back. I get to a lower interest rate, right? And I put that into another property, which I'm sure you guys do a similar thing, the BRRRR strategy. Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm doing with my California condo, and looking at my Arizona properties that are paid off, taking some of these condos, packaging them together, sell like 3, getting a good amount, buy another complex, maybe a 24 unit or 36 unit complex, right? And just 10X in this portfolio. And then my ultimate goal, like when I start to retire, like, later on in life, is to start selling off these complexes, right? And then 1031 exchanging it into like a Lutzka estate. Huh. And one of the biggest things to me is like protecting your property. So like I took the time to like a good year of figuring out, because a lot of these properties were in my personal name, because my dad didn't invest into real estate. We didn't come from money. We didn't know anything about this. So my biggest thing was like, how do we protect these properties? So now what I did is I put them into land trust. land trusts are into LLCs. The LLCs are owned by a Wyoming holding company, so I have anonymity there. And then it's ultimately owned by my living trust. So it's going to get passed down. And I wanted my, in my will, and my trust of where, my kids one day will get these properties and their kids will get these properties. And it's going to build generational wealth where it's like, where do these properties come from 3 generations from now? Well, I don't know. This crazy kid from the Midwest that dropped out of high school that knew how to do some 270 nose blunts. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I can, so like I look at life now of like where I want to go and where I want to build and build backwards.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you start with the end in mind. So where is that? Where do you want to finish?
Well, that's kind of what I'm building now is taking the smaller real estate I have and
no, I know that, but what I'm saying,
where do I want to finish?
If you're starting with the end in mind and you're reverse engineering or working your way back, what is that goal? Is it a dollar amount? Is it a amount of passive income coming in? Like where are you?
I think and I don't really spend a lot of money, so it's not like I live this crazy lifestyle and I like a Grant Cardone or some crazy shit like that, like buying yachts or some shit, or like even Deerdick lives a pretty crazy lifestyle, right? I'm pretty basic, so it's not, I don't think a dollar amount. I think it's just goals that I have of like, all right, I want to own like I'm looking right now, a 52 unit, 52 and up community in Michigan. It's only like $3 million. It's not like a crazy amount out there. There's a 12-plex I'm looking at buying that I want to buy that's $850,000. 2 units. Each unit has 2 bedrooms, fully redone. So there's deals out there you can get, especially in the Midwest. I feel like where I'm investing, not a lot of people know about that spot, because I feel like where people live, they always feel like they got to invest where they live, and not necessarily you have to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. I grew up in the Midwest, so for me, it's not scary to invest there because I grew up there. But I think people that grew up out here and they're like, well, where am I going to invest in Ohio? Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Or it's just kind of like a foreign place. But I mean, you get it because you guys buy storage there and you guys buy out of state and you buy in California.
Yeah, we do both.
But I'm saying majority of people probably are a little scared of, the one thing I do got to say about Michigan is their it's everywhere. Property tax is high. A lot of people say, okay, yeah, I'm going to move to Texas because I'm going to have no state income tax. But then all of a sudden they buy a property there and the property tax is through the roof. So they make their money up. And Michigan actually has 2 property taxes per year. They have a summer property tax and a winter. And their property taxes are high in Michigan.
We almost did a property in Michigan.
Did you? Their property taxes are high there.
In where?
Was it Dearborn?
It was Dearborn.
Was it?
It was Dearborn, and we passed on it.
Did you?
No, no, it wasn't Dearborn. It was a weird name.
Yeah.
Oh, Ypsilanti.
Yeah, Ypsilanti.
Well, there was also a deal in Dearborn, but that one we walked out.
Where do you feel like obviously your focus is a lot in California, buying property here, slating it down, rebuilding, where do you think out of state is a beautiful place where the property tax is low and then you don't have the state income tax or low state income tax? I feel my Arizona properties are pretty low property tax, and then the state income's not too bad.
Okay, so it's.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
And if there was one special place, that place would be flooded. All investors would be going there.
Yeah, so that's what happens, right? Yeah. And that would be, I'll tell it this way. Yeah. I had somebody come into my office, 6 months ago. Yeah. And he was like, hey, dude, I have this huge opportunity. We're going to build, a 400-unit apartment building. They wanted us to basically be the equity partner. And in his pitch, it was this. There's land everywhere to build. It's easy to build. We get through our entitlements and permits within a year, right? Tax friendly. He started basically saying exactly what you just said. Correct. This is the golden area to invest.
And where was this?
It was in Arizona.
Oh, in Arizona. Yeah.
In
Arizona. Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I looked at him, I'm like, dog, I know you're selling that as something good. I am terrified by everything you just said. Yeah. I don't want anything to do with it. Yeah. And this is why. If land is everywhere, there's nothing that makes it difficult to build. If you can get through permits in 10 months, that means it's easy to build a lot. Oversaturation coming, right? Tax friendly, that's going to drive investors that way. So for us, we actually look at it differently. I want to invest where, honestly, you can't. Yeah. I want to invest where all the, mom and pops or startup equity firms will not invest because the barrier to entry is too high.
Yeah.
And so
that's why you do California.
That's why we do California, because I get some protection from oversaturation.
Correct. And the value of real estate here is obviously going to Like it's
Yeah, but
gonna
that's a
keep
big
going
reason,
up.
right?
In the
Because-
Midwest or some of the areas like that, those places are not going to go crazy value. You're not going to make it that way. You're going to make it more on all the passive income of rents coming in. So it depends what your goal is too. If you're trying to flip properties, buy, build, sell, this is the place to do it.
Yeah, like, yeah, if you're
And if you
trying
have
to-
investors, like you got a lot of investors, right? They want to make their return.
Yeah.
So they're excited when you build a new property, and if you can sell it for 10 times more, whatever it is, more than what you bought it for, and they get their money back and they reinvest into a new project with you,
Right.
it makes total sense that way. Now, if you're a private investor and you're not raising a lot of capital from other people,
It's almost impossible to
then
do it here.
then the structure that I'm thinking that I do, that basically then that makes sense. Buying in areas kind of like where I'm buying, and you're building it on passive income of rent. You're not building on basically trying to flip the property.
Yeah, that's right.
Like all my properties, I feel like they're like, for the most part, I probably won't sell them for many years, and I'm just building up. Well, I guess the smaller properties we're trying to build up, but we'll get to a certain point where we get that complex, that thing ain't moving. We're keeping that thing for a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe when I'm 70 and I'm like, man, I just want to really retire, and I'll put that into a 1031 and then into like basically a end goal. You know what I'm saying, of an estate, and then that'll get pushed down to the kids. But or when I have kids, I should say. I don't even have kids.
So to answer your question, the areas that are friendly to build, right? They're out there, right? Like, Arizona's it's a pretty good market if you're looking at it through being, easy to build.
I wish I would have bought more.
Texas, easy to build.
I wish I would have
Florida,
bought
easy
more
to build.
back then, because I could have got so much more real estate at that low price that I was buying. I just, back then I just wasn't as savvy as I am now with investing, because I was making money in all different ways. So it wasn't like when you have those big deals, you're not really thinking of taking that money and really dumping a lot more into real estate. And I think that way now, I guess, looking back. And I wish I would have had someone that pushed me more to invest more back then. Plus, we didn't know that the market would take off like it did. But that also worked in my behalf too, or in my benefit too, because now our rents are way higher.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
let me ask you this.
but I do like the market of Arizona. I do.
Yeah, we had a storage unit in Arizona. We sold it. We made a ton of money. So I'm not mad at Arizona.
No,
right?
yeah.
For you, we have all of our multifamily in California, and almost all of our storage outside of California, right? Other than 2 properties. I mean, what do you like? Like, what areas do you like California over the other markets, or do you think it just depends on the asset class?
It's a better fit for the game that we're playing.
Yes.
Right. The game that
That's
that we're playing is going into, on the housing side, markets that are vastly undersupplied, that are very hard to build because nobody wants anything to do with it. Right? Like you had mentioned earlier, people are going to Texas, they're going to Idaho. I mean, we were just in Idaho, and everywhere we turned, it was construction. Every single block, you look left, you look right, and there's development happening. Yeah. And that's because there was a wave, and then the builders built on that wave, and it was easier to build there. And now they've been building so much that potentially, I'm not saying that this is definitive, but potentially a few years from now, they may have what we're hearing Texas is having now, which is too many units, and now they're bringing the rents. Now they're bringing
enough renters,
and so now they're
that's
competing.
a problem.
So now they're competing for rents and bringing rents down. But here in California, the bureaucracy has made it so hard to build for so long that so many
You're
builders,
not going to have a problem getting renters in.
And that's why here you're buying these deals at cap rates that are significantly lower than something you'd buy in the Midwest. And so if you're playing the passive income game, you're looking at cap rates as like the main driver. Like, can I get something at a 7 cap, 8 cap? Because that's cash flow. It's also risk. And that's the part that a lot of people, kind of bypass. The higher cap rates in the secondary or tertiary markets are more risky investments, and they have limited upside. Whereas here in California, if you buy something that's built and stable, I don't think that there's real money in that in today's market. Yeah. But doing what we do, where we take over a vacant lot or a distressed asset.
What you guys do is brilliant.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like you're not worried about what the property looks like, because in the end goal, you're looking at the land. So you're looking for the shittiest property ultimately, but with the biggest land, just get rid of it, rebuild, build up, and then flip it.
Well, I mean, we bought a property in Ventura for what, $6.5 million roughly. We are projecting a total build out of about $42 million to build 88 units there. And our projection, once the thing is fully stabilized or potentially at sale, is roughly about 83 million.
Yeah, that's
Where
amazing.
are you getting that kind of value
Return.
pop?
Yeah. So your goal, once you get it kind of built, it's not even really to get, I mean, it'd be nice to get renters in there, but you're already looking at flipping it.
No.
No?
Nope.
You want the renters in there, and you want to make the passive from
Even though we've sold real estate and made a lot of money, I almost regret every single piece of real estate
That
we
you
sold.
Well,
sold,
because
bro.
here's why, right? Somebody will.
But what
look-
do your investors want? Your investors want to get paid back as quickly as possible.
So here's the
And-
thing.
And
So they do.
yeah,
Because where you may look at something at like the Midwest at like let's say a 7 or an 8 cap, because we are buying right here in California, we're building it to that 7 or 8.
Yeah,
cap.
we're building to a 7% yield on
Right.
cost.
So if we're able to arrive at the same cap rate, even though it takes us a few years to get there, because we have to build it out, why would we sell it at that point in order to do what? Sell it and then just turn around and buy something else for potentially another 4 or 5 cap? I'd rather hold on to my 8 cap asset
Makes sense.
as long as I can. Plus,
But the
all the
investors don't get-
depreciation, we're getting on our build outs.
Well, that's another thing about real estate
huge.
that I love too, is the depreciation. At the end of the year, you're trying to basically show a loss at the end of the year, is what you ultimately would be nice to do, and you can do accelerated depreciation.
Yep.
So that's a beautiful thing about real estate. Why I like it a lot as well is there's a lot of ways that you can not have to pay taxes. I know you're a guy that doesn't want to pay taxes like me. I don't want to pay taxes. I'm trying to figure out every which way to not pay taxes. And then, I also diversified myself too. Like I'm a partner with restaurants. So I'm a partner with Sessions West Coast Deli.
Dang,
and
restaurants.
Then, like built a lot of different things. So it's not just real estate. I think people should build out a diverse portfolio. Don't put everything in one basket. But my favorite is real estate because you get the depreciation, you get the tax write-offs, you can build wealth beyond my when I die. There's generational wealth, I should say. There's just a lot of beautiful things about real estate, and restaurants can be scary, but ours does really well. And I'm partnered with 4 different ones, and they're all under one LLC. So if one is kind of not doing as well, the other one kind of makes up for it, which is kind of nice. So Sessions West Coast Deli does pretty well, and we have a plan to sell that in X amount, or Matt does in X amount of years. So that's kind of like, and it's hands off for me. I put my money in. We have a location at Fashion Island in Newport Beach. We have Irvine, we have Mission Viejo Mall, and then we have South Coast Plaza. So, and they all do really well, but that's not going to be long term. That I'm not going to have that 20 years from now. I'm sure Matt doesn't want to be in the sandwich business forever. So we'll get a good payday where I like having my own properties because I know what I can do with those properties. When I want to sell them, I can get rid of them. If I don't want to sell them, I'm not locked into something that someone else is making the decision for me of selling.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Like,
Even with this storage facility that I invested in with my neighbor, we have a 137 unit storage facility in Ohio. It's the only property that I'm actually invested in with other people. And I'm just like, when are we going to flip this thing? I just want to take the money from it and like go invest in my own project. I don't know why I just feel that way, but I just like having control on where and what my investments are doing, I guess.
I think that's...
And I don't know why I'm that way, but that just kind of...
There's a lot of people that are.
That's just kind of how I am. And I have faith in Chris, and I know that we're putting a lot of money into reamping. Like I said, we're turning the mobile... the motel into, basically more rentals that people can come and rent office space. Office space is what he's doing. And, I'm just like, all right, let's get this thing sold. Let's flip it, because I want to make my return plus more. And then I want to take that and put that in on my next project where I'm not even having investors.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather somebody flip something and give you your money back plus, let's say, 100% return or let's say a doubling of your money?
Yeah.
In 5 years? Or would you rather somebody give you your principal back through a cash out refi and you could take
beautiful.
that money and invest it somewhere else and still own on?
I like that. I like the cash out refinance. And you guys probably do the same game. You building it up, get the cash out refinance, being able to pay back all the investors. How long when you invest with Commune Capital does it take for basically the investors to get their first
We target
return?
to do the cash out refi around year 4.
Year 4. So are they not seeing any returns for 4 years?
Typically what it looks like on development, it's 2 years to build. Year 3 is when the distribution picks off. Not a lot. And this is typically, right? Sometimes it doesn't work this way. And then year 4, we target a cash out refi that's significant,
Yeah.
right? We want
so they're making majority of their money back.
Yeah.
Because you're building so much, you put so much, there's so much equity in basically.
Yeah. So
property,
basically we want to get you in an ideal situation. By year 5, we want you playing with house money. That's like a perfect situation. And then, they're like, okay, I invested $200K with you. I've gotten $200K back now.
Yeah.
I
Invest in
still
the next
own
project.
Yep.
And you guys are always, I looked on the website today, you guys always have new projects popping
Right
up.
now we do. We're like you. We're doing a lot of projects right now. We definitely used the last 12 months when no one else could buy and started buying.
Okay.
And so I want
and like I said, like for most people that are investors and don't necessarily know how to get into real estate or want to like know where to buy, because that is a thing. You could go somewhere, and if you're not running your numbers, you could actually buy in a market where it's going to cost you money after you have renters in there.
Right.
So all of a sudden you put down your 25% or whatever it is, and you didn't run your numbers. You didn't put down how much your insurance is, your property tax, your management fees, all this stuff, and then you get your renters in there, and you're like, oh shit, we're taking a loss right now. That's not a good place to be in, right? So like, I think with what you guys are doing and have really good experience in it is, guys that have money, it's a good idea to invest in a company like yourselves that have been doing it for years and make sure you don't get those investors into that situation, right? So I think there's 2 ways about investing, and I like both.
Yes,
I like both.
Active or passive?
I like both. I think there's no wrong way to go. It's just, what does the investor feel most comfortable with?
Yeah, that's right.
And then what's cool about your guys' company that I think is awesome is you can invest not in just multifamily, you can diversify and also get into storage.
Right.
Because originally when we talked, you guys were just doing storage, and you're like, we're starting to get into multifamily. This is going to be a new sector for us, but now would be a good time to get in. And at that time, I was still kind of buying my own properties, and now I kind of kick myself in the ass thinking like, damn it, I should have got in at the beginning stages.
Yeah.
Because look what you built now and how many projects you have.
Our first one, it's actually a senior. It's not assisted living, but is it 55 and up?
Cedar.
That's what I want to buy.
Yeah, so we have one of those. Yeah. That was 2015.
And how does that do?
It does good.
Very well. Yeah, and the renters stay. They don't trash the place.
Yeah, I would say where you're totally spot on. The older the tenant,
the better.
The better they keep the unit. That's
keep
100%.
the unit, and they're more opted to pay.
Yeah,
I feel like they're more opted to pay, and especially the senior citizen, like they probably had sold their house because they don't want to take care of it anymore, and they kind of budgeted their life to like, I can afford to live here for, you know what I mean? They don't want to be moving around.
Yeah, so at this point we've done, and we still own that one, so it's 55 and up. We've done some that are super focused on like millennials.
Yeah.
Now I would say a lot of our stuff is starting to tap into like a Gen Z avatar. So I would say now the majority of our apartments are built for a younger audience.
Yeah. And are a lot of your investors skaters? Because I know you mentioned Paul's with you guys. You guys have some skaters, but...
We have some, but we have a little bit over 600 investors. And out of that 600, what?
Like a percentage.
15 are skaters.
That's it?
Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, because unfortunately the challenge
There's not that much money in skating as much. I feel like when we were coming up, there were a lot more sponsors that were paying.
Yeah, the problem is a lot of skaters they're not allowed to invest with us. They're not accredited investors. Oh. So the biggest challenge is not that they don't want to; it's that I can't legally allow them in.
They wouldn't qualify.
They don't qualify.
They don't qualify.
That's the part that sucks. We would have way more skaters without that tag.
Yeah, they don't qualify.
We have we have a good amount of athletes.
But I think this podcast and kind of talking about it, and me and you, we really know that real estate has changed our lives.
Yeah.
And we came from a skateboard background. We were pro skateboarders. And I think if we didn't invest into real estate or we didn't take that risk, because at one point, like it in the beginning, it is a big risk. And then it starts like doubling and you kind of, you get in the momentum of building it. But in the beginning, it does take you got to come up with the cash.
Yeah.
And then you're risking a lot of the cash. And then once you see how it works and you start getting good at it, it becomes almost like, okay, the money game, right? But that's one thing why I wanted to do this podcast. I thought it was really cool because me and you kind of think a lot alike and came from a similar background with skateboarding and how real estate has changed our lives and how we can talk about this openly and inspire younger dudes that are coming up to invest, whether it's through commune capital or buying their own rental properties or investing where they want. It's a smart thing to invest at the younger that you can invest, the more that you're going to build for your future.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And when you're making money from these sponsors, you're not thinking this way because, you're just focused on skateboarding. And that's what you should be focusing at the time. And that's why a company like you guys have is really awesome, because they can give you guys, boom, they're going to see their investment, they're going to see their return, they can focus on skateboarding.
Yeah.
right?
The interesting, like the hard part about skateboarding when you talk about investing, one, there's still skaters still don't like talking about money. That's kind of the first part. The second part, dude, I get a lot of blowback on just the fact that we buy real estate. Like, there's definitely this energy in the skate community that's like, if you own real estate, that's wrong.
Wow.
Right? Evil capitalists, basically.
Yeah.
Greedy, all of the, kind of buzzwords. But for the pro skaters, you're wrestling something different, right? The pro skateboarder in the beginning, let's say 18 to 27, I'm not hearing from them.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's typically towards the later half of their career.
Yeah.
And really,
when they start thinking
that's
about what they're going to do after skateboarding.
yeah, so basically this is the biggest challenge, right?
Yeah.
Skaters don't start thinking about investments until they've come to the realization that their career is almost over.
Correct.
So they're
Yep.
not taking advantage of their career on the up, right? They're trying to now play a defensive game and going, this may be my last contract. I need to start investing. But the problem is they didn't build, a machine prior to that is just, printing money for them. What they're doing is, I've got 3 years left in my contract. I have no
What do I got to
investments.
do? What am I going to do afterwards?
Yeah, and so then
Yeah.
it becomes, I need to stockpile cash to try to figure out this transition. Yeah. And I don't have a solution for that yet.
Well, and the return that they need to generate in order to sustain their lifestyle
huge.
is so big that the risk that they would have to take in order to get there could very much compromise their entire principal amount that they have saved up over the years.
100%.
I can tell you the solution to that
What?
is having podcasts like this and bringing on pro skaters that are a bit older, like P-Rod and
Right.
some of these guys that are invested and can talk openly about how it changed their life, how it's built a life after skateboarding, and inspiring the younger demographic at, hey, if you're making money at 19, 20, 21, 22, I don't care what age it is, the younger you are to be able to start investing, you're going to thank yourself later on. I thank, to this day, my neighbor Ben, just like I did today.
Right.
If it wasn't for Ben to dude, you should buy these rental properties where I'm buying in Arizona. I would have never went to Arizona. He hooked me up with his realtor, and he hooked me up with his team basically there. And if it wasn't for Ben, that I probably wouldn't have gotten into real estate back then. And those are great assets I have now that are just boom, cash flow every single month.
I have the same people in my life.
Yeah, where it's I don't even have to worry about. I mean, I'm doing a lot of other deals even outside of skateboarding. Now I have my boards in Walmart. I have my own TV show and Fuel. I got a documentary that just dropped. I got a lot of other projects going. I have my own online business where we sell over 40,000 products in the motorcycle industry. That's a full drop shipping business. I have my real estate portfolio. I got my restaurant portfolio, all these different things. So I'm still on the grind as if I was 17 and just moved to California. But and my focus was on going to spots and executing tricks. I do 15 different things in one day of trying to figure out where could I invest this money, or where could I guess I always setting goals for myself in other ways outside of skateboarding. And skateboarding was like that at one point too, when I was all right, I'm going to film this video part. I'm going to do this trick there. I think of that same way in life, but just, I guess, more in a financial way, and how I'm going to build this real estate empire and what am I going to do on this next project. And a big focus on mine is, and why I created the entry level skateboards and why I created the TV show was all right, I want to leave a mark in skateboarding now of giving back to that next generation, giving that opportunity for that next kid that's coming up to be on a TV show to make it, right? Giving that kid that opportunity to buy, his parents to be able to get a skateboard at $40, that's actually a good complete, because my first board from Walmart was a piece of crap. It was, plastic trucks. It was a Veriflex. And then, even going in there to this day, the boards on the wall weren't that great. So I knew all right, Darkstar's not going to be here forever, right? I had a vision of wanting to build a line of boards that were for kids that could go to mass market, right? And so and then building the documentary, it was all about creating a story and putting it out there of how to inspire other people to go after their dreams, whether you drop out of high school. And there's a bit in me that was thinking okay, cool. If I have kids one day, I want them to be able to sit down and watch this film in 1 hour and just see what I did my entire life growing up, instead of going on YouTube and be check this video part. They can sit down and literally watch my life in an hour and say, that's what your dad did for 20 years, you know? So, and then it ended up blowing up bigger than what I thought it was going to be and being a whole movie. And now we got it on Apple TV, on Amazon, on freaking Google Play, and we brought in a lot of really rad pros that are in it as well, that talk about skating. And So it was about building like a really inspiring story to like inspire others. And I think doing podcasts like this, it's about inspiring others. So like, even though you're investing in yourself and your future, I want to invest in other people as well, and invest and help them get to a certain point. And I have a feeling like one day I want to be able to, like, how do I say this? I don't want to say an agent, because that's a weird word, but like being able to like connect the dots for those next skaters coming up. Oh, you want to ride for who? Rockstar Energy? I know Steve Matea's over there. Oh, you want to ride for, you know what I mean? Like, because I've been in the industry for quite a long time, where it's like I know people to where like I could connect that dot. I don't need to make a percentage off you. I'm just saying I would be able to help out that next generation. And I've already been kind of putting those dots together for some of, younger kids that I know. So that just became a passion of mine. Like, okay, now you did it in skateboarding. You have this vision of what you want to build and where you want to go in real estate and how you want to 10x or 20x your portfolio. But I also have this vision of like, how do you inspire the next generation of kids coming up and do it in a really cool way? And I don't know, that just became a passion of mine as I got older, not just thinking about myself and my future, but thinking about the next generation of skaters. You know
What's
what I mean?
the future of skateboarding look like?
Man, it's crazy. The talent levels through the roof, right? If you watch, I don't know, the Olympics, and some of the guys now are just like insane. I'm glad I grew up in the era we grew up in, and I'm glad I grew up in the era of the 4-in-1 days, the VHS days, the actual days of skateboarding where teams traveled, right? There was team videos, the Girl Mouse video, the Toy Machine Welcome to Hell video, the Flip Sorry video, the Lakai videos, like all those were so dope. You don't really see teams coming out with videos like that. You don't really see the tours, the days of getting per diem, which now that's like a foreign, like people don't even know what that is in skateboarding, but you probably remember you'd go on a trip with your team, you'd actually get a per diem, like cash. This is what you get to spend for the week being on tour with us. There was a point where like when I was with Dwindle and being with Almost That, they were paying my everything, dude, my cell phone bill, my insurance, monthly, per diem, like all those kind of days are like long gone, and I think it's just an oversaturated market now. And like the new standard is basically board royalties, right? So all these pros that were once getting, now they're like, well, we're just getting board royalties. At this point, why don't we just start our own company, right? So you got Paul's got his own company, Tori's got his own company, Scheffler's got his own company, DeCenzo just created his own company. It's just the way of the industry has changed so much, and social media has made it change so much. And the talent is crazy high too. So, and there's so many skateboarders, and it's crazy to think. It's like skateboarding is at its all time. It's in the Olympics. It's huge. It's everyone. Everyone knows it. But the industry's at a downfall. It's hurting more than any other time than our whole career that we were in. It's at the worst right now. And
so what do you
struggling.
think 10 years from now? You think pros all own their own brands, and it's more of a like fragmented kind of product?
I don't know where it's going to go, but I can tell you this much is like online is huge and direct to consumer is huge, right? So a lot of these brands are going to be having to do a lot of online advertising, online marketing, all that kind of stuff, where like we were growing up, we go to the local skate shop, there was probably 10 brands, 15 brands on the wall, Toy Machine, Girl, Chocolate, Birdhouse, we can name them, zero. Now you go on there, it's like, well, half this
brands you've never heard
100
of.
brands you never heard of, because everyone's got a brand nowadays, and there's not as many skate shops, because now kids go to the store and they, or they try on the Vans or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm a size 11 and a half. Then they go on the internet and they find it for $20 cheaper, and they get it delivered to their house the next day. So they don't even end up buying the product at the skate shop that they tried on the shoes at, because there's so many deals online. Right. And that's unfortunate. And that's why I always say, like, support your local skate shop, support your local skate park. Even in the Midwest, like when I was coming up, Four Seasons Skate Park was cracking. I mean, huge, like massive amount of kids. I go back there now, it's like a ghost town. There's like 3 kids in the park, and it might be shutting down soon. It's unfortunate. It's like, that's why I always say, support your local skate shop, support your local skate parks, because the one that you guys skated in the Valley, it's no longer here too, right? That you and Tori, I think.
Pedlo?
Or
the Northridge one?
I think it was the one that Tori skated, Skate Lab.
Skate Lab. Skate Lab's gone.
Yeah, and that was like probably a really popular park growing up as a kid.
That's right.
And I'm sure you've seen skate shops go away. I mean, it's just the skateboarding market has changed so much. That's why I say, like, the era that we were in, was a pretty good.
It was the golden era.
It was a golden era, like.
Yeah, the 90s and 2000s, man. They were the best.
Yeah. And I'm hearing him say this, since I'm hearing opportunities left, right, and center.
And I'll always skate, and like I love skateboarding, so it's like, to me, nothing has really changed. I just look at, like, for the next generation of kids that are coming up, it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, what you just said something. Just say that again, because
I
that's
said
important.
he's talking about how it's changed so much and all these issues that exist, and I keep seeing opportunity. Like, how do you modernize the skate park, right? So for like example, malls, right? Like, I think we're all around the same age range. Like, we grew up kind of in the like old school mall vibe.
Correct.
Those things are not happening anymore. What has it become? It's become the retail experience centers where they're incorporating restaurants and theaters and walkability and all these things where it's not just stores, but it's now an experience. So how do you take something like a skate park or like the skate industry that's gone through this full cycle and now it's dated in some ways and it requires to be modernized? So it's really just who's got the vision and the creativity to take this concept, bring it into today's society that will re-attract everybody back into it.
You know what the hardest part is? Is the people that are typically going to find the opportunity and drive it forward are non-skaters. And it never works because you almost have to find the crossover of an actual skater and like an actual business builder. That's what has to come together, and we just don't have a lot of those.
Yeah, no, we don't.
You know.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, there's nothing wrong about what you just said. You know,
he does have a good point right there.
Greg Lutzka, where can everybody find you?
Instagram, I guess you could say. I guess everyone's on Instagram now. Nowadays, social media.
What about some?
Which is crazy to think. Like us growing up, we never had social media. So like, and it's nuts to say this. So let me just like kind of put this out there. How you turned pro back in the day was like you had to be in the magazines. You had to have a video part out there. You basically had to get yourself to a point like the company believed in you enough to put your name on a skateboard and people are going to buy it. And nowadays with social media, it's like kids can have 3 million followers and companies are like, well, we should probably turn him pro. He's going to sell like a lot of skateboards and we'll just sell directly online, right? Like there is opportunity if you kind of build out your own platform or your fan base, I should say, you know, and I look at guys like Wes Kramer, which I'm a huge fan of, you know, and he was like against social media for a long time, never had the Instagram. The whole industry thought he was cool as shit. And I think he's cool as shit, but that probably backfired at one point where it's like DC's looking and they're like, he doesn't have 3 million followers.
Well, did DC kick him off because he wouldn't go on social media?
I don't know the whole situation, but I'm just saying that's how the times have changed. I like the non-social media days. I love Wes Kramer, by the way. He's one of my favorite skateboarders of all time. He's the best. But I'm just saying it's nuts to think about that. Like the way me and you turned pro was a lot different kind of than the way that the kids are turning pro nowadays. And a lot of it's built on building your own, I guess, social media following. I don't know. And then the company, and you got to have talent. I mean, you got to be, you know, but the video parts, those days of even the magazines, there's Thrasher, and that's like the only one left. And I'm a huge fan. I mean, that's why I rock Thrasher all the time. Huge supporter, but it's like, it's just a different time and era, you know, like, and if you film a video part on top of that, it's like you work so hard to film this part, then like to get a company behind it to even pay for the music rights. So now all of a sudden you get shitty music because companies probably aren't spending the budget to pay the rights. The YouTube's going to flag your stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's just a different time and era. And you know, back in the day, like getting a digital part, Bill, we used to just run it. Like, whatever you want Ozzy Osbourne, we'll throw it in there. You know,
Wes Kramer, you're not gonna know who this is.
No, but
he was like, I mean, like one of the sickest skateboarders ever step on a skateboard, right? Spewing talent.
Yeah,
and he was like an OG, like wise beyond his years in the sense that we're all going heavy on social media. This was 2000.
He got Skater of the Year too. Like he's
13,
badass
right?
skater.
This is 2013. I'm like going nuts on Instagram, so much so that he coins my nickname Feed.
He did.
That's all I do.
Oh, you guys are on the
feed.
same team together.
Yeah. And then I actually heard recently that DC let Wes go because he wouldn't do anything on social. But I heard they gave him the ultimatum. They're like, "Hey, man, you either got to get on social or you have no place here." And
That's
Wes
crazy.
just straight up went
left
later.
That's gangster,
right? So there's a part of him where it's like definitely different than I would have done.
Yeah, but that's cool that he stuck.
That goes
you gotta
back.
respect.
You gotta respect him.
Well, that goes back
and he
to
stuck
the question.
To his roots.
Yeah,
that goes back to the question that I asked earlier: is where do you draw the line between playing the game and sticking to who you are, potentially at your own detriment?
He stuck to who he is. And
it totally depends on what you're here to do, right? For Wes, it was I want to just skate. This is what skateboarding means to me. and I'm not willing to participate in all this other stuff. So for him, it was the right move.
I feel like he's like kind of the new age, kind of like Tom Penny. Like Tom Penny just wanted to skate. He didn't care about making any money in the industry, anything like that.
Same
I feel
thing.
Like.
Yeah, same thing.
thing.
And then for me, it was like, I started off just wanting to skate, but like once I got sponsored, then I really started like enjoying the business side of it. And then I wanted to grow and I wanted to build off all these new ventures similar to him.
Yeah.
And so for me,
and those ventures turned into new ventures, but I think because we had like a mindset of business is why we're kind of where we're at now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like
so
this would be the thing. I don't know if there's a right or wrong between like the path Wes chose and that I chose. Wes would look at me and go, "You're doing it wrong." And I would look at Wes and go, "I would never do that." But at the end of the day, it's like you got to respect what each of us are doing. I think, you know. So.
Yeah. But you've seen it, like, you know, social media was moving and you were on top of it trying to.
I was going early. And dude, honestly, if I wouldn't have done that, St. Archer wouldn't have worked. We wouldn't have had that exit. Wouldn't have paid.
Oh, definitely. If I didn't go on social media and do the posts for some of the silly companies over the years, like I wouldn't have had as long of a career that I've had and still kind of do. I mean, I'm 39, still getting paid to ride my skateboard and do what I love. Right. I just take the money that I'm making and like invest it smart because I know that how much longer am I going to be able to make money in being a professional skateboarder. That's right. And then trying to think backwards. Okay, cool. I have this goal up here. How can I take what I have and 10x it to get to this next goal? It's ultimately what like my vision is. And I think when you create the vision of that's what I want to end this at. You got to create the life and the vision and the plan, and then you got to build the plan with the belief that you can go do it. Because once you lose the belief, you basically have nothing.
Yep.
So if you can you basically create your future, right? You do. And if you can build the plan to create to the place where you want to go, and you have the belief to do it, you'll do it. And no matter if it's investing or if it's being a pro skateboarder, you'll be able to do that. And I think skateboarding, and you said this too, and I heard you say this, like if you are a skateboarder, you fell your whole entire life, right? And I'll let you kind of re-say it how you said it, but basically you fell jumping down these stairs over and over and over and over, and you got up and you landed that trick. And that's the same thing that happens in life and in business and investing. And you fall and you get back up and you keep going. But as long as you still have that vision in your mind of like, I'm going to roll away from this, you're going to do it in life, you know?
That's right.
And I heard you say that. I thought that was really cool and really inspiring because like if you fall, like everyone falls in life, but a lot of people give up. Everyone falls in skateboarding, but most skateboarders don't give up.
Yeah, you only fail when you quit.
Yep, you only fail when you
Ladies
quit.
and gentlemen, Greg Lutzka, thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you, brother. Cool.